In the Oresteia, the great trilogy with which Aeschylus effectively founded Athenian tragedy, guilt is never merely a private matter of conscience. It's a dead ode, tracked, and eventually collected by forces older than the city itself. The house of Atreus is pursued across generations by the Furies, spirits who exist for the single purpose of hunting down blood left unavenged. However long ago it was shed, and however successfully the guilty party has since built a new life on top of it. Aeschylus's Agamemnon opens with a watchman who has waited a full year for a single signal fire, and the play's chorus recalls a crime a decade old, the sacrifice of Iphigenia, as though it happened yesterday, because in the moral logic of the trilogy, it has never stopped happening. It's simply been waiting. When Orestes finally kills his mother in the second play, the Furies rise from the earth itself to pursue him, visible to him and not to the audience in a way that makes plain what the whole trilogy has been arguing. Guilt does not decay with time. It waits, dormant, but never dead, until the circumstance arise that call it back into the light. Aeschylus writes from within a thoroughly pagan moral universe, with the Furies as semi-divine enforcers of an impersonal law of retribution rather than agents of a righteous covenant God. And the trilogy's resolution, the founding of the Athenian court system under Athena's tutelage, is a distinctly Greek solution to a distinctly Greek anxiety about cyclical, unending blood vengeance. None of that is Israel's story, and yet the underlying psychological insight Aeschylus dramatizes, the unconfessed guilt is not erased by time or distance, that it lies in wait for a moment, it will resurface again, is precisely the phenomena that happens in Genesis 42. 22 years, on the most common chronological reckoning, separate Joseph's brothers from the day they threw him into the pit, sold him to Midianite traders, dipped his robe in goat's blood to deceive their father. 22 years of ordinary life, marriages, children, flocks, a famine, during which the brothers apparently said nothing further to one another about it, until a foreign vizier they do not recognize accuses them without any evident cause of being spies, and something in 10 grown men breaks open at once. In truth, we are guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the distress of his soul when he begged us and we did not listen. No one has mentioned Joseph. No one has accused him of anything related to a lost brother. The confession arrives unprompted, dredged up by circumstances that merely rhyme with the original crime. A brother in Egyptian custody, a demand that cannot be refused, the powerlessness of being at one another's mercy. Where Aeschylus needed the Furies, external and monstrous, to embody guilt's refusal to stay buried, Genesis 42 needs nothing but 10 brothers standing before a grain administrator and a memory finally permitted to surface. That's the drama Genesis 42 stages, and it's the reason the God of Israel, working entirely through ordinary providence rather than any visible supernatural machinery, can accomplish in a single Egyptian audience chamber what an entire pantheon of Furies exists in Aeschylus's world to accomplish over 3 plays.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Covenants and Kingdoms. I am your host, Brad, along with...
Hey, I'm Nathan. I'm along for the ride here.
You know us by now. I guess if this is your first time...
Yeah.
Welcome. We love having you. Before we get into the text today, we're always brought to you by Baba Java Coffee. We are located here in Birmingham, Alabama, specialty coffee roaster, 3 cafes in the area, and you can get your own bag of coffee. Go to babajavacoffee.com, put in the code Covenants at checkout, and you'll get 10% off your order, which will basically cover the tax.
And if you order 100 pounds of Baba Java coffee, Brad will personally deliver this said Baba Java coffee with a copy of the 3 plays of Aeschylus, even though most of it has been lost to time. He's got hidden copies that he has preserved. He will recite the plays
on papyrus
with the 100 pounds of Baba Java coffee being carried by Fury, so scary and horrifying that you may or may not have a heart attack. Beware.
I think I could do that for 100 pounds.
Yeah. I think so. He's going to read it. He's going to recite the plays from heart in the original ancient Greek.
Jeez, that probably means like 300 or 400 pounds for that, because I'll have to learn Greek to do that. So pray for the gift of tongues. All right. There's no good segue out of that. So
I guess not.
that was an interesting story, Nathan. And I know you love ancient Greek texts. So
Yes. So it was basically Agamemnon so in order to find favor with the gods, he had sacrificed his daughter.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when he did that, the mother of the daughter, when Agamemnon returned from the siege and victory at Troy, he came home and he just wanted a hot bath. All right, just as all of us would, right?
Yeah.
After a 10-year siege of Troy,
Yeah.
where you are victorious and you burn down and killed everybody in Troy. Everybody, when you come home, what do you want? You just want a hot bath, right?
Yeah.
So Agamemnon so his wife says, "Oh yes, honey, come on, I'll prepare a bath for you." So she prepared a bath for him. And while he was taking this said bath, she and her lover murdered Agamemnon. Killed him. In Greek culture, it's not people don't like it today, but back then matricide was like one of the worst things you could do.
What a word.
So Agamemnon's son avenged Agamemnon by killing his mother. Okay?
Wow.
And so the gods found this as a great offense. And so the Furies prosecuted Agamemnon's son for matricide. And so the gods had a court, and the court, they decided that they were going to prosecute Agamemnon's son for matricide. And so at this court that established the Athenian justice system, the vote of the gods was a tie. And in the Athenian justice system, a tie goes to the runner. So a tie goes to acquittal.
Oh.
So he was acquitted of the crime of matricide because he was avenging his father's murder. Thus established the Athenian justice system.
Interesting.
With lots of twists and turns.
Also,
there were more. So that was just like part of 2 plays. And then there were another play and a half, which is a lot weirder. We're not going to go into that. A lot weirder.
What, weirder than that?
Yes.
Wow.
So anyway.
So how was that tying into our Genesis
I know.
42?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess inter-family.
Yeah. It's about interfamily conflict. It's about guilt. It's about bringing up past offenses.
Yeah. Which we're going to get into all that, for
the
sure.
justice that occurs from past offenses. I mean, Joseph didn't kill anybody, but
his brothers tried to.
His brothers at least accused him of being killed. They wanted to kill him, except, Reuben saved them from killing him. But they would, some of them would have, I think. And then they accused him of being killed, and they let their father think he was killed. Yeah. So anyway. Wow. So we get to Genesis 42. Genesis 41 closed on a note where the famine had become severe over all the earth. Kol haaretz. We talked about that. And all the earth, Kol haaretz, came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain. Okay, this is typos. We talked about the last episode. This is typos of what's going to happen at the end of Genesis. The prophecy that Jacob prophesies that brings all men to the Lord, to Yahweh, basically. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that. That's going to be, stay tuned for that. It's going to be brilliant. I mean, not because of me, but because the prophecy is just beautiful. Okay. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. Genesis 42 opens by, it narrows this claim down to a single family. Okay, so we have all the earth comes, Kol haaretz comes to Egypt, and then Genesis 42 narrows it to this one family. Okay, from Egypt's vantage point, this was a crisis that Joseph's administration had already solved. Okay, so now it becomes, from Canaan's vantage point, the mechanism by which the covenant family is drawn back into contact with this brother that they believed they had erased so long ago, 22 years ago. All right?
Just crazy to think about 22 years.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, when I read it, I don't think about that. But that's a long time.
I mean, just think 22 years ago. I guess that was 2004.
Yeah.
So that means
Eesh.
I only had 2 kids. I had Josh and Evie.
Yeah, I had 0 kids.
2004, our son, Luke, that died. That's when he was born.
That's when we really got to know each other.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was, it wasn't that long ago, but it seems
like
in
forever.
memory a long time ago.
Yes.
So a lot has happened
A whole lot.
in 22 years. Okay, so let's read the passage, Genesis 42.
When Jacob learned that there was grain for sale in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" And he said, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain for sale in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with his brothers, for he feared that harm might happen to him. Thus the sons of Israel came to buy among the others who came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke roughly to them. "Where do you come from?" he said. They said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." And Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed of them, and he said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." They said to him, "No, my lord, your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." He said to them, "No, it is the nakedness of the land that you have come to see." And they said, "We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan, and behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is no more." But Joseph said to them, "It is as I said to you, you are spies. By this shall you be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you and let him bring your brother while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you. Or else, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies." And he put them all together in custody for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "Do this, and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers remain confined where you are in custody, and let the rest go and carry grain for the famine of your households, and bring your youngest brother to me. So your words will be verified, and you shall not die." And they did so. Then they said to one another, "In truth, we are guilty concerning our brother, and that we saw the distress of his soul when he begged us, and we did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us." And Reuben answered them, "Did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen, so now there comes a reckoning for his blood." They did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. Then he turned away from them and wept, and he returned to them and spoke to them. And he took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. And Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, and to replace every man's money in his sack, and to give them provisions for the journey. This was done for them. Then they loaded their donkeys with their grain and departed. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder at the lodging place, he saw his money in the mouth of his sack. He said to his brothers, "My money has been put back. Here it is in the mouth of my sack." At this their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that God has done to us?" When they came to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, "The man, the lord of the land, spoke roughly to us and took us to be spies of the land. But we said to him, We are honest men. We have never been spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, By this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me and take grain for the famine of your households, and go your way. Bring your youngest brother to me. Then I shall know that you are not spies, but honest men. And I will deliver your brother to you, and you shall trade in the land. As they emptied their sacks, behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said to them, You have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now you would take Benjamin. All this has come against me. Then Reuben said to his father, Kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you. But he said, My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm should happen to him on the journey that you are to make, you would bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol.
When Jacob learned that there was grain for sale in Egypt, he said to his sons, Why do you look at one another? Why are you just standing around looking at one another? Why are you not already gone?
Right.
Behold, I have heard that there is grain for sale in Egypt. Go down and buy grain there for us, that we may live and not die. Yesterday. Why are you still here?
My granddad would say, Why are you standing there with your mouth open?
Yeah. I had an old coach that would say, Burning up daylight.
That's right. It makes no sense.
Okay. Let's go. It means, come on,
That's
stop
right.
standing around, get
Exactly.
working. The chapter's opening question is simple. A father's rebuke of his sons who are paralyzed by indecision, right? But it's also the narrative's reminder that this family, 22 years after the selling of Joseph into slavery, is still capable of standing frozen before a hard decision. Still slow to act, still shadowed by this dynamic that the text doesn't forget, right? Jacob sends his 10 sons, but he keeps Benjamin back, for he feared that harm might happen to him. Verse 42:4. Rachel's remaining one son is held close in a decision that will cause more tension in the following verses, right? Okay, this chapter, it's so in Genesis 37 to 41, it told the story of Joseph's descent and then exaltation, okay, and his solution to the problem of the dream, right? Genesis 42 to 45 tells the story of the family's reconciliation, and Genesis 42 is where that second story begins. Not with a revelation and embrace, we'll get there, but with concealment, accusation, and long overdue confession the brothers don't even realize they're making to the man they wrong. They think they're speaking to each other, but he understands them. All right, so we got 5 movements in this chapter. Verses 1 through 5, it records Jacob's decision to send his sons to Egypt and hold back Benjamin, right? The second, 6 through 17, it's the brothers' arrival, and they're bowing before the Egyptian vizier, who is in fact Joseph. Joseph's recognition of them and their failure to recognize him, and his sudden accusation that they're spies, followed by a 3-day imprisonment. Verse 18 through 24 covers Joseph's revised proposal on the 3rd day, the brothers' guilt-laden conversation among themselves. We assume it's in Hebrew, presumably, which they assume their Egyptian interrogator can understand, and which therefore function as the narrative's first unguarded window into the their inner lives since chapter 37. And Joseph's private weeping before he composes himself and selects Shimon to be bound before them. Verse 25 through 28 follows the brothers' return journey, the horrifying discovery that one man's money has been returned in a sack, and their shared collapse into fear. Their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, What is this that God has done to us? In verse 28. Verse 29 through 38 records their report to Jacob, the further discovery that all their money had been returned, Jacob's grief-stricken refusal to let Benjamin go, and Reuben's desperate, revealing offer of his own 2 sons as collateral. Okay. Famine, grain markets, and Semitic migration into Egypt. So Egyptian sources across multiple periods attest to exactly this pattern that Genesis 42 depicts. Semitic peoples from Canaan and the Western Semitic world and the Levant traveling into Egypt's eastern delta during times of drought or crop failure to purchase or petition for grain. The Middle Kingdom tale of Senuhe and various tomb and administrative texts describe both the movement of these Western Asiatics into Egypt and Egypt's own bureaucratic anxiety about controlling that movement. And later, New Kingdom border post correspondence, the so-called Papyrus Anasti VI, from a somewhat later period, but reflecting a long-standing administrative practice. This records Egyptian officials explicitly permitting Edomite Bedouin to pass the fortress of Merneptah in order to keep them alive and to keep their cattle alive. Language that reads almost as a documentary footnote from Genesis 42:2's that we may live and not die. Egypt, uniquely among its ancient Near Eastern neighbors, possessed a food production system, the annual flooding of the Nile, resilient enough to make it the default destination for famine relief across the wider region. This is not a novel convenience invented for the Joseph story, but a well-attested geopolitical reality of the ancient Near East, in which Egypt functioned across many centuries as the granary of last resort. Frontier security and the charge of espionage. Joseph's accusation, "You are spies, you have come to see the nakedness of the land," would have struck an authentic note of plausible official suspicion to both Egyptian and Israelite hearers of the story. Egypt maintained across the Middle and New Kingdoms a genuine and heavily fortified eastern frontier system, which we see archaeologically and textually as the Way of Horus. It's a chain of forts and garrisons across the northern Sinai built precisely to monitor, control, and where necessary, repel the movement of Semitic peoples into the delta. Egyptian administrative documents from later periods and the broader pattern of Egyptian foreign policy towards Canaan and Levant throughout the second millennium BC show a state genuinely and persistently concerned about infiltration, reconnaissance, and the vulnerability of the Eastern approaches to exactly this kind of small, mobile, multi-brother reconnaissance party of 10 sons traveling together to a suspicious border or palace official. Okay? Joseph's charge is therefore not an arbitrary or implausible pretext invented merely to create dramatic tension. It's the single most obvious official suspicion that an Egyptian administrator in Joseph's position could plausibly voice against a group of these Canaanite men that are arriving together when at a moment of national vulnerability. It's precisely why it serves Joseph's purposes so well. It's both an authentic accusation and a deliberately chosen instrument of testing. Twice in this chapter, Joseph swears by the life of Pharaoh. That's in verse 15 and 16. Chai Pharaoh. Para. Chai Pharaoh. Sorrow. Chai Pharaoh. That's an ayin. Okay. A genuine Egyptian oath formula in which the reigning king's life stands as the guarantor of a statement's truthfulness. Attested independently in Egyptian legal and administrative texts as one of the most solemn forms of asseveration available in the Egyptian court. That Joseph swears by Chai Pharaoh, Pharaoh's life, rather than by God when addressing his brothers in his official capacity, is a small but telling piece of characterization. He's fully performing his role as an Egyptian statesman, maintaining his disguise down to the specific idiom in his oaths. Even while, as we'll see in verse 18, he simultaneously invokes fearing God in a way that signals to the alert reader, yet not his oblivious brothers, that something other than pure Egyptian officialdom is operating beneath the surface. Surety, pledge, and family law. Reuben's offer at the chapter's close: kill my 2 sons if I don't bring them back to you. Put him in my hands and I will bring him back to you. That's verse 37. It reflects a recognizable A&E legal category, the offering of persons or property as a pledge against the fulfillment of an obligation. Attested across Mesopotamian legal collections like the laws of Hammurabi and related codes, and consistent with patriarchal era customs elsewhere in Genesis. Compare Judah's own offer of personal surety in Genesis 43:9, which Jacob will actually accept, where he rejects Reuben's. Reuben's proposal is legally coherent within its world, even if it's emotionally grotesque to the modern reader, right? These are Jacob's grandsons. This is a collateral for a decision Reuben himself did not make and couldn't fully guarantee, and Jacob flat refuses it, verse 38. It's in itself a characterization showing a father unwilling to add the death of his grandsons to the risk, no matter how sincerely the surety is offered. Joseph's decision to hold the brothers in custody for 3 days, verse 17, before revising his proposal belongs to a broader biblical and A&E pattern in which 3 days functions as a fixed narrative unit signaling a completed but bounded period of testing, danger, and transition. Compare this with Abraham's 3-day journey to Moriah, Genesis 22:4, the 3 days of darkness in Egypt during the plagues, Exodus 10:22, Jonah's 3 days in the fish, Jonah 1:17, and of course the same numerical grammar between the crucifixion and the resurrection in the New Testament. This convention doesn't require any single passage to be read directly dependent on another. It's typology. It's prophetic typology. Okay, it indicates that both the original audience and the narrator shared a settled sense of 3 days as the idiomatic length of this decisive interval, long enough to be felt as a genuine ordeal, short enough to be resolved within the simple narrative unit. Okay. And lastly, the Egyptian grain bureaucracy. Okay, so the transactional scene that Genesis 42 shows foreigners arriving at a central Egyptian grain office, presenting themselves before this administrator, purchasing rationed food under conditions of official scrutiny, coheres with what is independently known as Egyptian state granary administration in periods of centralized crisis management. Egyptian administrative titles attested across the Middle and New Kingdoms include specific offices for overseer of the granary and overseer of the double granary. Officials responsible for tracking inventory, authorizing disbursement, and especially in periods of scarcity, controlling access to these state reserves against exactly the kind of unregulated foreign demand a regional famine would produce. That such an official would personally interrogate a group of arriving foreigners, verify their story, and impose conditions on further transactions is entirely consistent with the kind of centralized command economy Joseph himself organized beginning in chapter 41. His own prior policy proposal, verse 41:33 through 36, anticipated and necessitated precisely this kind of gatekeeping role, since a ration reserve meaningful enough to survive 7 years of famine couldn't be distributed without some mechanism for controlling and verifying who received it and on the terms. Genesis 42, read this way, is not a departure from the administrative realism of chapter 41, but the logical continuation. It's the same command economy that required a wise, discerning administrator to build now what requires the same administrator to enforce. Okay, so let's go through the text here. Verse 1 through 2. Let's read verse 1 through 2.
When Jacob learned there was grain for sale in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" And he said, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain for sale in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there that we may live and not die."
Lama titra'u. Lama titra'u. Why do you look at one another? Okay, so it's this root ra'ah. This conveys this mutual hesitant glancing. So 10 grown men caught around in a kind of paralysis Jacob had to break with an impatient rebuke. Okay, this urgency of his closing clause, that we may live and not die, uses the same live-die polarity that will recur repeatedly across the Joseph narrative's remaining chapters. So we'll compare it to chapter 43, verse 8, chapter 45, verse 5, and chapter 47, verse 19. And its dominant statement of the stakes, this is not a story about commercial convenience, but about the covenantal family's survival. It's precisely the register in which the earlier promise of the Genesis 15:5 blessing, the numerous seed, is now placed under direct, tangible threat. Okay? So verse 3 through 4. Let's read that.
So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with his brothers, for he feared that harm might happen to him.
So the phrase of the narrator here, okay, it says, Achi Yosef. Okay, it doesn't say Jacob's sons.
Yeah.
It says Joseph's brothers, Achi Yosef. Okay, it's a deliberate choice at this moment, reminding the reader, just as the 10 set out for the very land where their brother now rules, unrecognized, exactly whose brothers they are and what they did to him. So it's making us remember back to Genesis 37, right?
Yeah.
Benjamin is identified as Achi Yosef, Joseph's brother, right? A title that marks him as occupying in Jacob's emotional economy the space Joseph once held, okay? This fear that harm might befall him uses the noun ason, okay? The same rare word that Jacob will use again in verse 38 and 44:29, a term elsewhere in the Torah reserved for catastrophic fatal harm. So let's read Exodus 21:22-23.
When men strive together and hit a pregnant woman so that her children come out, but there is no harm, the one who hit her shall surely be fined, as the woman's husband shall impose on him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if there is harm, you shall pay life for life.
So this is that the same ason, okay? The same term for catastrophic fatal harm. That's what this Exodus passage is talking about. This signals that Jacob's caution here is not this ordinary parental worry, but a specific, still raw dread rooted in what he believed had already happened to Joseph. All right, remember, Joseph was his favorite son, right? His favorite wife, Rachel, gave him Joseph. Joseph was the favored one. He will eventually become the double inheritance, the one with the blessing, like the oldest son, right? But he still remembers, I had a son that died.
Yeah.
Right? I can still remember that day. I still remember everything that happened. And certain times, in certain situations, if somebody says something just right, or I hear a phrase or something just reminds me every once in a while of that time.
Yeah.
And I remember it. Jacob remembers that. He wasn't even there when he died, but he knows he died.
Yeah.
And there's no closure for him because he didn't even see his body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no closure for him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want it. So his other son that he loves, Benjamin, okay, remember, son of his right hand, son of his right hand. Again, the youngest from that favorite wife, Rachel, right? So he's not going to let anything happen to Benjamin.
For those of you who don't know, the son of the right hand, the right side of the patriarch is a very special place,
right,
in stature.
Why is Jesus seated at the right hand of God?
The Father.
He is Benjamin.
Exactly.
Jesus is Benjamin.
Yes, he is.
He's the son of the right hand. Okay. Let's read verse 6-7.
Now Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land, and Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke roughly to them. "Where do you come from?" he said. They said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food."
So they bowed themselves before them, faces to the ground. Okay? The narrator lets this detail land without comment, but the reader, we recognize the direct, exact fulfillment of Joseph's first dream from Genesis 37:7. Let's go back and read verse 37:7, just to remind ourselves.
"Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright, and your sheaves gathered around and bowed to my sheaf."
That's what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
Okay? So the brother's sheaves bow down to his own. That's exactly what he prophesied was going to happen. Okay? This is one of those dreams that provoked their original hatred and precipitated his sale into slavery. Okay? It's being fulfilled right before their eyes. And again, they're oblivious to this because they don't know it's Joseph, right?
Yep.
Hopefully in this very posture, in front of the man whose downfall they engineered, okay, Verse 7 then pairs two verbs built on the Hebrew root in deliberate tension. Okay? The root of nakar. Joseph recognized his brothers. Okay? Veyachar Yosef. Right? He recognized them. Immediately followed by, but he made himself a stranger to them. Okay? The wordplay is exact and untranslatable in most English versions. The very root that means to recognize also means to treat as unrecognized. So it's the same word, that same root, okay? That nakar. Okay?
Yep.
It's the same root. So he recognized them, but he caused himself to be unrecognized.
Yeah.
That's what it's saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, in English it sounds weird.
Yeah.
But that's what the Hebrew says. Okay.
But I mean, it makes sense because it's 22 years. He's dressed like an Egyptian.
Yeah.
He's completely shaved.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't look.
And he's older. He's not.
Yeah,
He's,
and he doesn't look like a Hebrew.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry about that.
I mean, look back when you were 17. Do you look the same 22 years later? No. I mean,
I was very skinny. I was a late bloomer. Anyway, but
So-
yeah, no, I don't look the
so
same at all.
you look a lot different when
Yeah.
you're in your 30s than you do when you're 17, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's close to 40.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's close to 40. So
it is.
So when you're 40, you didn't look like you did when you're 17.
No,
And imagine your brothers think you're dead.
yeah, right.
You're shaved, whatever. You're
wearing your Mr.
you
T
got,
kit.
You know, he's got the Mr. T. He's got the headdress. He's got his, all the makeup on that the
Yeah.
Egyptians wore or whatever. He's probably tan.
Oh, I'm sure.
Of course,
he
they're
is.
probably tan too from being outside.
That's
but
true.
Anyway, they don't recognize him. But whatever it says, he caused himself to not be recognized. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know. Other than what we just described.
Yeah. So disguise himself as a stranger, something like that. So his recognition and concealment are in Hebrew quite literally the same verb, turned in two different directions. So he knows them completely, even as he actively makes himself not known to them. Okay. All right. Verse 7 and 8. You just read that.
Yeah.
And he said to them, Where do you come from? From the
But you
land
gotta
of
say it
Canaan. to
real
buy food."
harshly.
Yeah.
Harshly.
I'm sure he did. Okay. The narrator repeats the recognition notice from verse 7 almost verbatim, but now with a crucial addition. Vehem lo hakarhu. Vehem lo hikarehu. Okay? They didn't recognize him. An emphatic doubling that underscores just how total Joseph's transformation and disguise have become. 17-year-old shepherd boy turned into this 39-year-old Egyptian vizier, right? He's shaved, robed, titled, married into aristocracy. He's got the Mr. T gold chain, the headdress, all those things that you see in the Egyptian high officials, right? Every marker of identity that would have triggered recognition has been systematically replaced. All right, verse 9.
And Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed of them, and he said to them, You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land.
Okay, so Joseph remembered the dreams. Okay, this notice arriving in the same verse as the spy accusation tells the reader plainly that Joseph's subsequent testing of his brothers, whatever else it accomplishes, is bound up in his own reckoning with the dreams that started this entire chain of events. Okay? The reader's meant to hold together the fulfillment already occurring of the sheaves bowing down, right? And the memory now resurfacing as Joseph's own interior drama running alongside and beneath the interrogation he stages. All right, this charge, Mergalim atem, you are spies, and Erot haaretz, okay? The nakedness of the land. It's a strong idiom for a nation's exposed, undefended points. This will recur 5 more times across this chapter in verses 11, 14, 16, 30, and 34. So this is an official accusation that gives the brothers no room to relax and gives Joseph, correspondingly, extended opportunity to observe how they respond under sustained pressure.
I wonder what would a spy, why would he be worried that a spy is coming to look at the famine? I've always wondered that. Like,
Well, what he say? I mean, he's just saying you're using the famine as an excuse to come and spy and look at the undefended
I see what
points.
you're saying. That may be true, yeah.
That's what he's saying.
At our weakest point.
Right.
You're coming into, yeah. Okay, I get it.
All right, so let's read verse 10 through 13.
All right. They said to him, "No, my lord, your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." He said to them, "No, it is the nakedness of the land that you have come to see." And they said, "We are your servants. Our 12 brothers, the sons of one man, in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and no one, sorry, let me say that again. The youngest is this day with our father, and one is no more."
No, my lord. So their defense is built around Canaan. Okay, Canaan. Honest, upright, true.
Those jokers ain't honest at all.
No. Which they repeat 3 times across this exchange. Verse 11, 19, 31, 33, 34. So they say it 4 times total.
Unbelievable.
An insistent, almost pleading self-description that becomes, in retrospect, ironic, as you said.
Yeah.
These are men protesting their basic honesty and moral uprightness to the one person alive in this whole land who knows and has exact, direct personal knowledge of the single greatest dishonesty of their entire lives.
Right.
Can you see the irony here?
Big time.
Oh, we're so honest and upright. I mean, they could have said it to anybody. They could have believed them.
Yeah.
But this is the one guy in all of Egypt that knows you're not.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's so ironic. It's just brilliant, right? Joseph's terse rebuttal repeats the charge without elaboration, refusing to be talked out of the test he's already set in motion. A deliberate narrative pacing device that lets the pressure build up across several rounds of protest and counteraccusation before Joseph finally names, in verse 15, the specific condition. And we'll get to there, okay? They said to him, "Your servants are 12 brothers, the son of one man in the land of Canaan. Behold, the youngest is with our father, and one is no more." Mm-hmm. Okay? The ha'echad enenu, right? One is no more. The brothers volunteer this detail themselves, unprompted by any question about any missing sibling, which means Joseph learns within moments of encountering the beginning that his family has apparently settled on a euphemistic non-account of his disappearance. Not we sold him, not even necessarily he died, but the vague enenu.
He's no more.
He's no more. Enenu. Okay? The identical phrase the narrator himself used in Genesis 37:30 when Reuben discovered the empty pit. The boy is not. Enenu. Right? Whether the brothers actually believe Joseph dead or simply maintaining 22 years on the same evasive formula that they first offered their father. The phrase tells Joseph that whatever story his family's been living inside for over 2 decades, it's not required them to speak plainly, even to strangers, about what they did. So it's like this massive secret.
Yeah,
the secrets of the family.
That's right.
It's this huge overarching secret. And Joseph learns just in this one simple conversation exactly what has happened. It's actually...
Man, their reality show on Bravo would be... people would just eat it up, wouldn't they?
We're so honest and upright.
Yeah. And it'd be like a zoom in camera. That's right. To Joseph, and he'd like cut his eyes to the camera.
Okay. The number 12 and the family self-description, okay? The brothers' self-identification of verse 13. Your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of the man of the land of Canaan. Mm-hmm. It's the first time in this entire patriarchal narrative that the family names its own total membership using the specific number that will become Israel's defining tribal count. Okay? The number occurs in verse 32 in the identical language. Okay? It's not incidental arithmetic. The story, the narrative has been building towards this fully realized 12-tribe family since the birth narratives of chapters 29 through 30 and 35. Mm-hmm. And Genesis 42 is the moment that this count's first spoken aloud consciously as a complete family identity. Spoken pointedly to a foreign ruler who already knows better than anybody else alive how incomplete and compromised that complete family is, since he himself is the brothers' is the brother that was folded silently into the story of the Enandi, the one who's no more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. By this you shall be tested. Okay. This bachan, to test, to examine, to try. It's a significant theological term across the Hebrew Bible. It's used of God's own testing of the righteous. So let's read a few of these verses. Psalm 17:3.
You have tried my heart and have visited me by night. You have tested me, and you will find nothing. I have purposed that my mouth will not transgress.
Bachan, you've tested me. You've tried. Okay, Psalm 26:2.
Prove me, O Lord, and try me. Test my heart and my mind.
Bachan. And Jeremiah 17:10. I, the Lord, search the heart and bachan the mind. Okay? Joseph, in this Egyptian disguise, applies to his brothers precisely this verb that's reserved for divine scrutiny of the human heart. Okay? It's an early textual hint, easy to overlook on first reading. What's unfolding in this chapter is not just a family drama or a political interrogation, but it's something functioning within this own theological covenantal system, right? It's a form of testing analogous to God's own testing of his people. Joseph then holds all 10 in custody for 3 days before delivering the revised terms that open the chapter's third movement, okay? And let's move on. So he holds them for 3 days. We've already talked about the significance of the 3 days, right? So that's a typos of this period of time that's long enough to be significant, but not so long where we can't conclude it in a short period of time, right?
Yeah.
In a narrative. So let's move on to 18 through 24. Let's do 18 through 20 first.
All right. On the third day, Joseph said to them, do this and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers remain confined where you are in custody, and let the rest go and carry grain for the famine of your households. And bring your youngest brother to me, so your words will be verified and you shall not die. And they did so.
So in verse 18, this is the great disclosure, okay? The one entirely private to the reader. I fear God, okay? Joseph, in the middle of an otherwise thoroughly Egyptian official performance, okay? The very next thing he does is swear by Pharaoh's life again in the verses. Briefly lets slip a phrase that's unmistakably belongs to the covenant family's own theological vocabulary. So this isn't just generic Egyptian court diplomacy. He lets slip something about that would speak to their hearts and what their theology would be, okay? The fear of God, the fear of the Lord, okay? It's a foundational category across the wisdom and legal traditions of the Hebrew Bible, okay? So it's really, really important here. Let's read a few verses of examples. Proverbs 1:7.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction.
In Deuteronomy 6:2.
That you may fear the Lord your God, you and your son and your son's son, by keeping all his statutes, commandments, and his commandments, which I command you all the days of your life, and that your days may be long.
Ecclesiastes 12:13.
The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man.
So the one who fears the Lord, fears God, okay, he orders his conduct, including crucially in Joseph's case, his exercise of arbitrary power over the powerless, according to the accountability to a higher authority than his own office. Joseph could have simply coerced or punished his brothers outright because he had total legal power to do that because they are suspected spies in a foreign land. But instead, he modifies his own proposed test towards mercy. From one of you go and bring your brother while the rest of you remain in prison, to one remains, the rest go free, and explicitly grounds that softening in his fear of God. The reader, though not yet the brothers, is being showed that the man administering this ordeal is not simply this powerful Egyptian exercising caprice, but someone operating, however concealed, his true identity remains under a real moral constraint, the fear of God. Okay?
Yeah.
So 21 to 22.
Then they said to one another, In truth, we are guilty concerning our brother. in that we saw the distress of his soul when he begged us and did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us. And Reuben answered them, Did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen. So now there comes a reckoning for his blood. Ooh.
So it says, Aval, Hashemim, Anachnu. Okay? Aval. It functions as this strong, this strong particle that really means kind of like truly, in fact, truly, this is what the truth is. So it's like, but really, this is what's going on. Okay? In truth, okay, we are guilty concerning our brother. So they're admitting it. Okay? Mm-hmm. So this is a decisive break from whatever the brothers have been telling themselves for over 2 decades. It's like you got this huge secret. You've been lying for so long, and then finally, you let it out. A confession. It's like a confession. Yeah. This is like confession of their guilt, confession of their sin. Okay? That's kind of like what it is. So this is the first time in the entire narrative that any of the brothers explicitly names their own guilt in plain language. And it happens not in a moment of like religious conviction or paternal confrontation, but this ordinary pressure of this political crisis, right? Like from the story of Aeschylus, from Aeschylus, this pattern of buried guilt surfacing under circumstantial pressure, but this confession includes a detail the narrator would never actually record back in Genesis 37. So we didn't see this back in the 37 narrative. We saw the distress of his soul. Tsarat nafshu. Tsarat nafshu. The distress of his soul. We saw that when he begged us. We didn't listen. So meaning that either that the 37 was deliberately compressed by the narrator, leaving Joseph's pleading for us to only learn about now, or just the brother's own retrospective conscience to bring it about, or that this is simply how unconfessed guilt operates in memory. Okay? The details don't necessarily fade. They sharpen, becoming more vivid and more damning the longer they're suppressed. Okay? Reuben's contribution, didn't I say to you, reasserts his own historical innocence. I told y'all.
Not to kill him. Don't hurt him.
Reuben alone arguing against killing Joseph, right?
Yeah.
Well, his closing calls, and also, behold, his blood is required, deploys the same blood that is required formula that will become a foundational covenantal legal vocabulary later in the Torah. Genesis 9:5, the Noahic blood accounting principle. 2 Samuel 4:11, the blood guilt in Israel's own theology. Okay? So it requires restitution or judgment. Okay? Yeah. All right, verse 23 to 24.
They did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. And he turned away from them and wept. And he returned to them and spoke to them. And he took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes.
So they didn't know Joseph understood.
No.
So Joseph's just sitting back. They didn't understand. This confirms that Joseph had just overheard his brother's entire confession, spoken in Hebrew, presumably in Hebrew.
But what else would they have used?
And what they believed was a private exchange among themselves, conducted safely out of earshot of comprehension. He turned away from them and wept. I mean, the first of what will become a recurring pattern across the remaining chapter of Joseph's repeated, increasingly uncontrollable weeping, a physical embodied response the narrative uses consistently to signal that beneath every layer of Egyptian officialdom and strategic testing, Joseph's compassion for his family, and specifically for his brothers who wronged him, had not actually ever died. It had been controlled, not extinguished. Then he composes himself, returns, and then immediately proceeds to bind Shimon before their eyes. This shows a man capable of holding both realities together at the same time. Genuine grief and a continued deliberate testing, exactly as his earlier disguised recognition already modeled. So all the emotions come at once. It all just comes back to him.
Yeah.
And he couldn't control himself at that moment. So goes, weeps, turns away, composes himself, comes back.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 25.
And Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, and to replace every man's money in his sack, and to give them provisions for the journey. This was done for them.
Joseph's order to return their payment secretly without their knowledge functions kind of at two levels, okay? And in the narrative, it kind of sets up the terror of the following scene and establishes the recurring money in the sack motif that will structure most of chapter 43 also. Thematically, it's difficult for the reader not to hear beneath the surface the kindness of this gesture. It's whether it's deliberate or not, the narrative lets the resonance sit unstated of the 20 pieces of silver in which the brothers originally sold Joseph.
Yeah.
Kesef. Okay. This 20 pieces of silver, 20 pieces of kesef, was the price of Joseph's disappearance from his family. And now this kesef is returned unbidden and unexplained. It becomes the very thing that terrifies the brother into confronting what money and brothers in Egypt have already cost them once before. So kesef, it's an interesting word. Like many languages, the word for money is silver, right?
Yeah.
It's like that in Hebrew too. Modern Hebrew, kesef is money, right? So there's a lot of languages where that's the case. So Hebrew's no exception.
Mm-hmm.
So verse 27 to 28.
And one of them opened his sack and gave his donkey fodder at the lodging place. He saw his money in the mouth of his sack, and he said to his brothers, "My money has been put back. Here it is in the mouth of my sack." At this, their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another and said, What is this that God has done to us? It's an interesting response to that.
Veyitse lebam. Veyitse levam. Their heart dropped. Their heart sank. Like that's our idiom would be their heart sank. Mm-hmm. It's real similar to that. Okay. It's a vivid Hebrew idiom for overwhelming dread. Real similar to the English, their heart sank, right? What is this that God has done to us? It's a theologically remarkable term. The brothers don't suspect Egyptian trickery or bureaucratic error.
Yeah.
Their first and immediate interpretation is that Elohim himself is behind this event. A spontaneous, reflexive theological reading of circumstance that only makes sense against the background of verse 21 confession. Many have just admitted their guilt concerning Joseph are primed in a way, not before that confession, to read every subsequent strange action as like this divine reckoning, finally catching up with them. Guilt has recalibrated their entire interpretive framework. The returned silver is to them not administrative accident, but cosmic accusation. Okay? Which we do that too.
Yeah.
We do the same exact thing. Oh my gosh, I did something wrong. I sinned or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, God's everything that happens after that. Oh, God's punished me for that. I do it for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Verse 29 and 30.
When they came to Jacob, their father, in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, The man, the Lord of the land, spoke roughly to us and took us to be spies of the land.
So when the brothers report all this to Jacob, they basically retell the chapter's events, but the retelling is a little bit different. It's significant. This is a family that 22 years earlier, they constructed and maintained an elaborate false narrative for their father about Joseph. Now, under far less severe circumstances, they report events to him with apparent full and immediate honesty, a small but real sign of some change, even if the deeper confession from verse 21 remains. And at this point, it's entirely unspoken to Jacob itself. Okay? Let's read 32. Let's read the rest, 32 to 35.
We are 12 brothers, son of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, By this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me, and take grain for the famine of your households, and go your way. Bring your youngest brother to me, then I shall know that you are not spies, but honest men, and I will deliver your brother to you, and you shall trade in the land. Oh, through 35. As they emptied their sacks, behold, every man's bundle of money was in the sack. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were afraid.
So this discovery is now made collectively in Jacob's present, compounds the terror already introduced, right? The whole family now confronts the same inexplicable phenomena together. All right, verse 36.
Okay, I have a question, though.
Yes.
Why would they be afraid that the money was there? Because, like, they're afraid that they didn't, that it was stolen? I don't know. What's the...
Yes, they're afraid that the Egyptians are going to say, you stole our money. You stole back our money, because they have it's inexplicable. They have no explanation for it. They know they didn't take it.
Yeah.
But they don't know that the Egyptians don't know that.
That makes sense. Okay.
I mean, if God miraculously, that's why they blame it on God.
Yeah.
If the God miraculously takes it and puts it as judgment back in their sacks, that's the Egyptians have every right to go and arrest them and throw them in jail for stealing money.
Yep.
Because that's what they would have done.
Yep.
That's why they're so afraid.
Makes sense. All right. Sorry about that. All right. 36, you said? Mm-hmm. Through the rest, or?
Just 36 for right now.
Okay. And Jacob, their father, said, you have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now you would take Benjamin. All this has come against me.
You bereave me. So this is this verb shakal. Okay. Iti, to me. Shikaltem. To me, I've been bereaved. Jacob's accusation, shakal, specifically the loss of children, directed at you, plural. The son standing but Tim. It means all of them. It's plural. The son standing before him in a way that lands with particular weight given their confession. They have just overheard in verse 21, but Jacob hasn't heard it yet. Right? The sons genuinely are, in the fullest sense that the reader now understands, responsible for exactly what their father is accusing them of. Even though Jacob believes he's speaking only in grief-stricken hyperbole, right?
Yeah. About
the circumstances beyond anyone's control. His triad, Joseph is not and Simeon is not, repeats the same anenu formula, anenu that we talked about. The brothers themselves used in verse 13, and the narrator used in the empty pit in 37:30, binding Joseph's original disappearance, Simeon's present detention, and Jacob fears Benjamin's coming departure into a singular accumulating pattern of this loss that this old man keeps having over and over again. All these things are against me. The universe is against me. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what he's saying. It's the Costanza, the universe is against me thing. All right?
That's right.
A declaration of total interpretive defeat that will be strikingly reversed by Jacob's own mouth in 45:28. It's enough. Joseph, my son, is still alive, right? We'll see that. Once this truth starts to emerge, okay, the narrator deliberately preserves Jacob's darkest, most despairing reading of the providence here so that its later reversible will hit harder, right? Mm-hmm. Let's read 37 and 38 now.
Then Reuben said to his father, kill my two sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you. But he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is surely the only one left. If harm should happen to him on the journey that you are to make, would you bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol?
So his closing refusal here, again, frames Benjamin, okay? His brother is dead, okay? Yeah. Achiu met. His brother is dead. Referring to Joseph, a statement of settled, unrevised conviction 22 years on and his own potential death as descent into Sheol, right? In grief, sealing the chapter on precisely the note of unresolved paternal anguish and generational risk that chapter 43 will have to deal with, all right, before reconciliation is possible.
Mm-hmm. What about the gray hairs? What about the gray hairs?
Yeah, so the gray hairs, it's gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol. So the gray hairs means he's just an old man. It's just an idiom that he's an old man.
I know. It's just an interesting phrasing. Bring down my gray hairs with sorrow. It's like, I'll be so sad that you'll cause me to die. Is that basically what he's trying to say?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm gonna be grieved to death.
Yeah.
I'm already old, but I'm going to be grieved to death.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So let's just touch back on this biblical category of testing across the Torah. Okay. So Bachan, we talked about that a little bit. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Joseph invokes, by this you shall be tested in 42:15. The Hebrew Bible distinguishes, not always sharply, between two overlapping test vocabularies. Bachan, which carries the sense of assaying or refining, testing to reveal existing quality, as a metallurgist tests ore, like Zechariah 13:9 says, I will refine them as one refines silver and test them as gold is tested. And Nisa, which carries more of the sense of putting something to trial or proof, testing to establish or strengthen character through experience itself. Like Abraham's testing in Genesis 22:1. God tested Nisa, Abraham. Okay. Joseph's chosen verb, bachan, suggests he understands his brother's ordeal less as a character-building trial imposed for their benefit and more as a diagnostic procedure meant to reveal what kind of men they already are and have become. Okay? Are they, in fact, honest men, okay, that they repeatedly claim to be, or does the old capacity for treachery against his brother remain intact beneath 22 years of their just settled life? This distinction matters for reading the whole Joseph and his brothers sequence correctly. Joseph's not manufacturing virtue in his brothers from nothing. He's trying to assay whether the virtue Judah in particular will demonstrate in chapter 44 already exists, however deeply buried, or whether the family that sold one favored son into slavery would, given the same opportunity and pressure, do the same again to another. Genesis 42 opens that assay. Genesis 44 will complete it. So do we understand why he uses bachan instead of nisa?
Yeah.
So this is this I fear God. Let's go back to that for just a minute. It just shows the overall spiritual.
And he uses Elohim there, right? Not.
Yes, Elohim.
Yep.
I fear Elohim, right? Again, he's in the Egyptian context.
Yep.
So, again, if he would have said, I fear Yahweh, I fear the Lord, they would have been like, what?
What exactly? Wait.
How?
You're a Hebrew guy?
How do you know Yahweh?
Yeah, right.
You know, that would have been weird.
Yeah.
So he says, Elohim, I fear Elohim. So this just shows that there's this bigger spiritual picture here. Okay? Remember, Israel remains Yahweh's direct portion. Deuteronomy 32, 8 through 9, right?
Of course.
So all these Elohim are put over all the nations, the Goyim, but Jacob is Yahweh's portion, right? This explains why Joseph can move fluently between these two religious systems without theological confusion. That's why he says Elohim. He participates outwardly in this Egyptian court religious form. I mean, he's married to the high priest's daughter.
Yeah.
So
which they're pagan. So
so in some way he's familiar with this pagan religion, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what he did. It doesn't say.
Yeah, no, we don't.
We
right.
know he trusts Yahweh. We know he does that. We know he trusts Elohim, but we don't know the rest of the stuff. And it doesn't matter. No. But he understands, and he can kind of go back and forth, while privately and consistently orienting his actual moral accountability towards the God of his father. A pattern of concealed covenant loyalty operating with this religious system that will recur in later figures such as Daniel and the three guys in Babylon, right? And even to more immediate extent, Moses, when he's in Egypt, brought up in the court but being full Hebrew, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked again about this Abrahamic seed. So this is the covenant that again, all this that we see in Genesis with the B'nai Israel are about the fulfilling the Abrahamic covenant, fulfilling the seed part of the Abrahamic covenant, fulfilling the blessing part of the Abrahamic covenant, right? The land, it's a little bit up in the air. They've been in the land,
Yeah.
But it's going to be up in the air. And we'll see, obviously, in this coming chapters, we know the story, that the land part is going to be up in the air for a little bit. But fulfilling this Abrahamic seed and inheritance covenantal fulfillment.
There you go.
I don't know.
I didn't know what you were going for.
Yes. And as we told you at the end of Genesis, when we talk about the blessing of Ephraim, we're going to talk about this Messiah ben Yosef. It's going to be something probably none of you have ever heard before. It's just brilliant about the fulfillment of the nations coming because of the blessing of Ephraim.
Yeah.
But also the Messiah becoming just like with Melchizedek. He's priest. He's priest and king, but he's also from different lines. We always hear about the Judah line, but he's also from Messiah ben Judah, ben Joseph.
Yep.
Joseph. Okay, we'll talk about that. It's really interesting. A lot of people have never heard about this, but David Mitchell has a book about it, and it's just brilliant. I love it. Okay,
What is that book again? Then?
it's called Messiah ben Yosef.
Yep.
But Messiah ben Joseph.
Yep.
David Mitchell. It's brilliant. Read it. It's great. So
That's homework for everyone listening.
yeah. So before the next episode, read Messiah ben Joseph by David Mitchell. I think you'll find it fascinating. I did, and do. So we see some of these themes over and over again, and throughout the prophets. Okay, we're not going to go into all of them, but I'll give you just a few to talk about. Hosea is one of my favorites. So Hosea 6:1-3, Hosea 4:1. The Lord has a controversy with the inhabitants of the land. Hosea 12:2, the Lord has an indictment against Judah and will punish Jacob according to his ways. This explicitly names Jacob as the object of ongoing covenant reckoning. Okay, it's the reminder that the patriarch's own household, not just his descendants, already modeled the pattern of concealed guilt, eventually resurfaced that Hosea later oracles apply to the nation as a whole. Genesis 42 teaches through narrative rather than proposition several convictions that will govern the remainder of the Joseph cycle and recur across the scripture as a whole, okay? About sin, testing, and reconciliation. First, guilt does not dissolve with time, okay? You can't just, sin doesn't just go away.
No.
Okay? This is 22 years later. It waits, and this, sometimes an ordinary crisis, a famine, a foreign accusation, returned silver in a grain sack, can surface what decades of silence have buried, precisely because this unconfessed sin remains. And the Bible's own moral logic, a debt still outstanding rather than a closed account. Second, testing and compassion are not opposites in the hand of righteous authority. Joseph weeps and continues to test in the same scene, modeling an exercise of power that's not cruelty nor sentimentality, but disciplined love pursuing genuine transformation rather than mere capitulation. Okay? Third, the family's own theological instincts. What is this that God has done to us? However fearful and incomplete, testify that even a household still concealing its worst sin retains some functioning capacity to recognize the divine action in the world. Okay, even though it's wrongly placed. Okay, it's actually the opposite of what they think has happened, and they're not being judged; they're being reconciled, and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
All right. It's an act of mercy, not an act of judgment. They don't even know it. Okay. This is deliberately designed to sharpen into full compassion and eventually reconciliation. Fourth, this concealment of the deliverer's identity is not the failure of the reconciliation story, but it's the first act, okay? The brothers must meet Joseph as a stranger with total power of their fate before they can meet him in chapter 45 as the brother they wronged who has already forgiven them. Well, so where do we go from here? So Genesis 42 is not primarily about Joseph's providential rise or his brother's sin, however gripping that narrative remains. It's a claim about the durability of unconfessed sin and the strange mercy by which God allows ordinary things, a famine, a journey, this loss, to do what 22 years of silence couldn't do. It forces this buried truth back to the light where it can be spoken, grieved over, and eventually healed. The brothers don't travel to Egypt seeking confession. They travel because they're hungry, right? They want grain. But the God who governs this narrative in this covenantal relationship, working entirely through his providence rather than through some visible miracle, uses their very own hunger to accomplish what their conscience alone had not yet managed in over 2 decades. This is Genesis 42's testimony to how God works, not by sparing his people the pressures that expose the needs, but by standing patiently and often invisibly on the other side of exactly whose pressures, weeping in secret, waiting for truth, so that reconciliation and love and mercy can occur. That's what Genesis 42 is about. The first step.
Yep. Well, that's a great start to this reconciliation between this family. And thanks, Nathan, for helping us walk through that. And thanks, everyone, for joining us on this episode of Covenants and Kingdoms as we continue to army crawl through Genesis.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But thanks, guys. Thanks for all your comments. Continue to interact with us. And we do appreciate Matt for his producing, directing.
He's the best. He likes to stir things up on TikTok too. He every time I misspeak, he likes to, or say something dumb, he likes to post that. So thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
Gotta keep you humble too. Thanks, guys, for joining us, and we'll see y'all next time on Covenants and Kingdoms.
Bye, guys.
Have a good
Thanks.
day.